So the Times is continuing on this. And there is a kind of retreat by the BBC that license fee evaders will no longer face prison. That is the first time that the BBC has kind of considered this. And there is a again there is a confession by the Times that Paul Decker and Charles Moore, who are positioned by Boris Johnson to take over at Ofcom and at the BBC. They're scaring off rivals for the two positions. That's the Times covering that story again in a kind of rare departure from the blind opposition to and the attack on the idea of the public service broadcaster, which is the BBC in a failed position, but BBC is the nearest thing that has existed to public service broadcaster in this country. Now, in none of these papers so far, not in the Times, not on the Guardian, as far as I can see, is there any reference to the tumult that is taking place across Bangladesh following the gang rape of this young person on Friday in Sylhet MC College. How come? If a similar thing had happened in another country that the Fleet Street considers to be acceptable culturally, not necessarily politically, but culturally or racially, they would have been vying for a kind of space to compete with one another in covering that outrage. Even the sources that had during 71 and immediately after the defeat of the Pakistani army, the Western sources had said, the outlets had published the fact of Pakistani army committing the crimes of mass rape on the women in East Pakistan. Even they are not taking any notice of the fact that in Bangladesh, rape is common. And this one is most unacceptably, outrageously staged in the vicinity of the holy shrine of the Saint Shah Jalal, and the saint, his relation is Shah Farhan, close relative Shah Farhan. Instead, they're talking about Lenin and other lazy stuff. Talking about Lenin is completely lazy. And there are the letters. There is nothing in the letters that talks about the litany of lies that are being perpetrated by Johnson-fronted regime and by the Fleet Street media. And the Murdoch Times is doing a kind of Times like grave kind of subheading. The BBC and Ofcom should have chairmen who understand the urgency of reform. Well, the urgency of reform must include the urgency to get rid of Murdoch as the owner of the mainstream media in any way, shape, or form. But that's not what they mean. They mean anyone who is not Murdoch needs reform, or Murdoch is above reform. They've got a piece about this French woman who is a Muslim, and they're saying that she wants to be president of France. She's a right-wing Muslim because she was picked and promoted by this crook, Sarkozy. So she's not really there for her faith or her culture. She's there as a stooge for the right-wingers and the racists. So Rashida Dati is a kind of extension of Nicolas Sarkozy, the racist crook. Sarkozy took Gaddafi's money, but then he is not alone. So many racists and imperialists and murderers in public posts in the West took the money from Saddam Hussein as well as from Gaddafi. And there is this rare piece in Fleet Street, which is in the Daily Mirror front page, saying that they are saying that Frankenstein food from America is on the table to be sold to Britain in post-Brexit deals. And then on page 2, they've got a piece about the latest poll that shows Keir Starmer ahead of Boris Johnson. And they've got a 2-page about meat from hell, American meat from hell. So that's what Trump is selling to Boris Johnson. And that is Brexit taking control, the Brexiteering liars taking back control, so they can poison millions of Brits with meat from hell from America. So they got a editorial there, which is correct. And they've got a piece as well against Harry and Meghan. So the Mirror is not really any different from the Sun, the Star, the Express, the Daily Mail. And they are also running a side piece about the Strictly Dancing, the pornographic kind of sites piece. And the Daily Mail is running the thing that the police are going to. And they are saying that there is a double trouble for Boris Johnson, beleaguered Boris Johnson, on page 2. They're saying the PM loses poll lead to Labour, which is what the Daily Mirror is celebrating, and donors warn him on bleak economy. And they've got internal kind of stories about Tory rebels, whether they are able to defeat Boris Johnson's plans. And there are people, 1 in 3 Britons have put off visiting the GP. And there is another PR plug for Kate Middleton. And there are 2 pages of the news about universities being locked down. And they're saying that ex-Daily Mail editor lined up for top job at media watchdog Ofcom. This is nothing to do with any concern. This is celebration item. And they're saying that scared patients are suffering in silence. That is evidence of the pandemonium, that the health service, the idea of a public health service is not in action, not available. And that is the superficial kind of story. They don't say there is, due to their agenda and the narrative against the idea of a public service health, publicly owned health service in the UK, which delivers health care at the point of need. That is what they have been opposing, and they're still opposing. So all this coverage about the various angles about the Boris Johnson versus his rebels, these are shadowboxing. These are not the truth. And they're lying. These papers are lying. And they've got a compulsory, if you like, 2 pages. All these tabloids have 2 pages on the hero policeman that was stabbed in a custody center in Croydon Police Station in South London on Friday. And here is a Daily Boris graph where it says, quite without any irony in the headline, that neighbors have been told to call police on neighbors, on isolation cheats. Now, still there is nothing about the cause and effect, the start of the infection and the journey through the various stages and the end of it. There is nothing there. And this is the same case with all the papers. And there are other items about curfews chaos, rebels confident of victory on COVID powers, and lockdowns at local level fail to curb virus, data show, and going gang bosses behind bars could be cut off by AI phone monitoring.